We're right now in chapter 17. This would be chapter 17, part 2, and it's also chapter 18, part 1, because so often when we learn, we remind ourselves that the numbers of the prakim don't matter. They're worthless, essentially. We only need them for the purpose of organizing and being able to find things, but they don't have anything to do with the thematic considerations. So we're on page 387 of the Koren Tanakh. It's chapter 17, and we are up to verse 15. What I want to try to do today is to situate us a little bit on the map. Last week, we focused a lot on the question of balance theologically between free will and God's foreknowledge, and ways in which different individuals may, in certain times in history, be tools in the hand of God, the instrument of God's will. In some way, and what's their level of responsibility, culpability. This week, totally different. I want us to see a few things inside, just in the level of pshat. I've taken to this sort of way of doing things. I think it works a little bit better. Get an overview what happened in the story, and then probably won't be this week. We'll try to get down into some of the other layers within the work of Chazal. And I was talking with someone yesterday. A lengthy conversation. We're talking about learning and Torah, and I explained to this person that we have transcripts of thousands of years of discussion about everything we're learning in Nach, even in these books of Nevi'im, from the works of Chazal, much of which is transmitted from the time contemporaneous to when these things happened, i.e. traditions to understand, well, here's the backstory, and much of it creative interpretation, based on the understanding of what's transpiring. Parallel books to Sefer Shmuel Bet help inform us. I'm going to show you an example, unless you scream it out first today. You'll see it's going to be pretty glaring when we get there, of previous biblical episodes. Or in the case of Sefer Tillim, the Siddur extracted all of the tefillot of David throughout his life, extracted and put in a separate book, the book of Tehillim, which bears the name of David many, many times. His compositions, not exclusively his compositions, but in many cases compositions. Anyway, back to the story. And I repeat again, if anyone wants to start a GoFundMe page and we can all run away from what we do today and do something else, I really want someone to make a film about this. This is waiting for Hollywood, lahavdol fe'avdalot, but if it's done without a jaundiced view, it's unbelievable what we're going to read about today, and we'll have many questions about it, no doubt. So let me set the frame, if you will. What we saw in the previous weeks was that as David is leaving Yerushalayim, he sends Eviatar Kohen, Tzadok Kohen, back to Yerushalayim. Tzadok and Eviatar each have sons, and basically those two are told, you're going to be the couriers of information from from Avshalom and his court to David, wherever David might be. And of course, he's going to be on the run. He is on the run. Further, Hushai Ha'arki, counselor and confidant and friend of David HaMelech, has been told by David to go back to Yerushalayim and to swear allegiance, or rather to feign allegiance, to Avshalom, which he does do. Recall that the one prayer that David actually utters that is in the Sefer directly as it's feeling appeal, a bakasha request of Hashem, is please upend the counsel of Achitophel. He sees in Achitophel a great mind and a great person of influence on what happens to the kingdom or in the corridors of power. And we don't have to draw any analogs. You can think of, I don't have to mention them. You can think of many, many, many times throughout world history that the person who was at the helm was getting their information and making their decisions in many respects on account of counselors who were telling them in the inner circle, sire, do this, Mr. President, do that, etc. Mr. Prime Minister, Ms. Prime Minister, do the following. They're listening to the military people, to the economic people, to the health people in our day, we would say, to all sorts of people who are informing them, the secretary for this and for that, hold tremendous sway over what today would be called in America the executive branch. It executes leadership. It's not subject to a vote. It's ultimately the person making decisions, either in an autocratic manner or in a less autocratic manner. But that function of government is, of course, on display in a monarchy in many respects. And so when Hushai Ha'arki gets in his view in front of Avshalom, and that's one of the things we analyzed last time, Avshalom says, wow, that was great. What does everyone else think? Yeah, we should do that. Okay. Sorry, Achitophel, we're not going to take your point of view. Now, when we read this, we think, well, you don't win every debate. Achitophel lost the debate, but as we shall soon see, unless you read ahead, this will have a crushing effect on Achitophel. Indeed, as we saw last pasuk Yud Daled, verse 14, chapter 17, Shmuel Bet, verse 14, the Navi testifies, by the way, Achitophel had the right counsel, but thanks to the Almighty, everyone suddenly shifted and said, Hushai, you're brilliant. Absolutely, we should do it your way. What was the difference? Achitophel wanted to move quickly and with agility, with a limited force, to kill, God forbid, David, isolate him first and kill him, following on the heels of Achitophel's initial counsel that Avshalom did follow regarding the 10 pilagshim, the 10 concubines on the roof. Put a tent up and go, and have a very public demonstration of rebellion. And then, stage 2, go after him and take him out. Hushai says, you can't do that. This is otherwise going to come back as you're a rebel, basically. What you need to do is you need to get everyone in. You need to make this a national campaign. Bring in everyone from Dan to Beersheba and get every Jew who wants to participate to come along. Why? National consensus. And sire, don't worry, you have a national consensus. That's how you got this far. It's playing to his vanities, right? You're so great, that's how you did this. You'll be successful at this too. Don't worry, we have your back. But you have to get everyone together. Now, that slows everyone down. And hopefully, also, as you increase and magnify the number of people outside of a smaller group of troops, you also enlarge the number of chances that you're going to start finding people who remain loyalists to David HaMelech. And remember, part of this problematic is there is no rebellion going on. It's a succession from father to son. It's a dynasty. It so happens, if you live in town, so to speak, you know that it was a little bit quicker than we expected that dear old dad was put into retirement. But if you live in Beersheba, or you live in, pick a town, Hod HaSharon, you live in Sofim or Netanya. I made up all of this. None of these places existed, biblically in the locations, but they were called that. All right. So you're not getting the news. There's no newspaper. There's a new king. It's King Avshalom. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. That's wonderful that David realized he had to transfer the scepter in his lifetime. What great nachas he has to give it over to his son. That's not a rebellion. House of David, next generation, next gen, 2.0. Yeah. But if you call those people, you muster the entire nation, and they're asked, what's the threat? What are we supposed to do now? And what are they going to be told? The trouble is the king's father, the new king's father. What do you mean? Well, he's gone rogue. We have to remove him. We all came from points abroad all across the nation to capture the king, who we honored and venerated as a great warrior. And you're telling us now that, well, times have changed. Now he's the enemy. That's not going to compute. That's Hushai's hope. And somehow Avshalom, who, remember, ran on a campaign, I'll watch my words carefully, a campaign of attempting to undermine the authority of his father, Davka through his charisma, Davka by telling people, remember, that was when he's standing, sort of interposing himself at the gate of Jerusalem. Don't go talk to him. He's too busy. Come to me. I'll give you a judgment you'll really like, which sounds like it should be comical. What does that mean, a judgment you really like? Then it's not a judgment. It's about pandering. Yeah? Okay. Now look at verse 15. Now enter the next section. Vayomer Chushai el Tzadok vel Evyatar Kohanim, who he knows are with him. In Avshalom's mind, of course, these are co-conspirators. He tells them, Kazot v'chazot, Ya'atz Achitofel Avshalom. If that's what Evyatar and Tzadok were being told, clearly they didn't know. They have to be told. This is the secret plan. This is what Achitofel said. Here's what I said. Al talan halayla ba'arvot hamidbar, v'gam avor al ta'avor, pen yevula lamelech u'lechol ha'am asher ito. So go, get out. Don't stay in the wilderness where you are, but rather run away. V'yehonatan v'achimatz omdim be'ein rogel, v'alcha shivcha v'higida lahem v'hem yelchu, v'gidu lamelech David ki lo yuchlu leheraot lavo ha'ira. Right? They have to run. And what happened? Basically, it's they somehow, instead of Tzadok and Evyatar doing this, they sent a maidservant who came to tell them. So they will go and run. They're the runners. They're the trusted couriers and messengers. So they can't stay where they are in Ein Rogel. But what happens? Vayar otam nar vayaged la'Avshalom. So you see here, obviously, there are loyalists to both sides. Vayelchu shnei mehera vayavo ebeit ish bevachurim velo ve'er bachatzero vayerdu sham. Where did they hide? In the well. Vatikach ha'isha vatifros et hamasach al pnei ha'be'er vatishtach alav harifot velo noda davar. Covers a woman comes and covers the be'er, covers the well, and so it is that she put different grains on the outside, on the top of it, that shows she's using it to dry grain, and therefore the well itself is covered, and no one will be any the wiser. Vayavo avdei Avshalom el ha'isha habayta, vayomru ayeh achimatz v'Yonatan, v'tomer lehem ha'isha avru michal hamayim. Vayivakshu v'lo v'yeshuvu Yerushalayim. I saw that they came here, and I saw they passed over some kind of water somewhere. And indeed, when they got there, to look for them, the servants of Avshalom couldn't find them, so they went back to Yerushalayim. Vayihi acharei lechtam vayilu mehabe'er vayilu vayagidu lamelech David vayomer el David ku vayivru mehirat hamayim ki chach ya'atz aleichem Achitofel. Go and cross over the water. See what that means, because this is what Achitofel gave as the counsel. Vayakum David v'chol ha'am asher ito, vayavru et hayarden ad or haboker, ad achad, lo ne'edar al asher lo avar et hayarden. Everyone crosses over the Jordan River. All the people with David crossed the Jordan River. Notice, by the way, that the messengers, the text tells us that they actually were giving information about what Achitofel recommended. So on the level of pshat, is that broken telephone? They forgot to say, but that's not actually going to happen. Instead, there's actually your friend Hushai got the word into the king's ear that we have to muster everyone in the nation, and that'll take much longer, and don't worry, you probably have loyalists, etc. Or is there some other reason why it had to mention, by the way, here's what happened with Achitophel, and Achitophel's counsel was not accepted, i.e., your prayer, sire, was accepted because they're not going to do what Achitophel said. It's ambiguous here. But look at Pasuk Chav Gimel. Then we're going to look at a map. V'Achitophel ra'a ki lo ne'esta atzato. V'yechavosh et hachamor. V'yakom. V'yelech el beito iro. V'yitzav el beito. V'yechanak. V'yamot. V'yikaver b'kever aviv. A man suddenly lost his purpose in life. He went home. He saddled his donkey. We know the expression to saddle one's donkey we have in several places in Tanakh. That's the story of Avram Avinu going to the Akedah, purposive. And it's the story of Vaychavoshet Atono, the story of Bilam getting ready to do the bidding of Balak. In both cases, Chazal describe Ha'ava ve'asina mikalkelet et hashura, that love and hate will mix up or confuse the order of things, or you could say will confuse the etiquette. Avram, a rich man, Bilam, a wealthy man. Neither of these people should be saddling their own donkey. It's for the stable people to do. Why do they do it on their own? There's a measure of enthusiasm almost. Ha'ava ve'asina. Although I wonder if the sinna here for Achitophel wasn't a sinna turned inward. He got up, he went to his house, to his city, he gave his last will to his family, and he hanged himself. And he died, and he was buried. We'll have to come back to all these things more in depth, but I'm just seeing the surface now. I need to do one more pasuk, then we'll go to the map. V'David ba Machanaima, v'Avshalom avar et hayarden. Hu v'chol ish Yisrael imo. David went to Machanayim, and Avshalom crossed over the Jordan, he and all of Israel with him. Now, literally all of Israel, I'll have to come back to that in a moment, but that's the expression that's used. He went to Machanayim. You know Machanayim, you've heard of Machanayim. I know you know Machanayim, so there's no point in beating around the bush. You know already what story is being described here, I assume. Or maybe not. Okay, before we get there, just look with me at this map. The map here is, let's go first over here to Bachurim and Ein Rogel. Remember, the two sons were in Achimatz and Yehonatan and Achimatz are in Ein Rogel. That's down here. Where do they run? They run to Bachurim. Everyone sees it on the map? Bachurim, you see how they went from here north to Bachurim. And they're hiding in this place. And that's where Avshalom's people come from Yerushalayim to find them. Not successful. For those who know a little bit about Yerushalayim, with a click of a button, now we're in Yerushalayim. Let me orient you. If you ever went to the old city, here's the old city. Here's the Kotel. Can everyone see this? Yeah. Here's the Kotel. From the Kotel, so this is the old city, obviously over here. Here is Ir David over here. This is a valley over here. This is the valley known as Gei Ben Hinnom. This is the mountain known as Har HaZeitim. This whole area here is Har HaZeitim. And hold on. Ein Rogel, if you want to see where it is, you can kind of see where it is. It's actually in view of the old city. If you've ever walked in the old city, you know that this street here is a ramp going up here. This area here. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Excuse me. The ramp is on this side over here. It's a street, but it goes up on this side. If you want to orient yourself a little more, here's the Inbal. There's Independence Park, Gana Pamon. This is the area of Tachana Rishona, where a lot of people go to restaurants now. And at the split, this is the valley known as Gei Ben Hinnom. And you can see the old city on the adjoining mountain. You're crossing across here. This is Ein Rogel, on this side. Most of us, when we're in Yerushalayim, take Kvish Shishim from the Jaffa Gate, which is up here. This is Jaffa Gate. We go down on this street, and you drive uphill over here. The Begin Center is right here. And we come up, and we end up on the street known as this street, which is later on further down called Derech Chevron. So where were they? They were in Ein Rogel. Let me try to zoom out again. Oh, that didn't work. Here we go. They were in Ein Rogel, which is farther south of the old city. But down here, this area, if you keep going, you end up in, this is where I want to show you, here. Whoops. You end up in Beit Lechem, which is the family home of David. And remember that further south, of course, on this same highway, which you take today, you get to Hebron. And in Hebron, that's where Avshalom started. So he's made his way up. presumably gathering people as he goes. They are therefore not going to, for two reasons. Number one, they're not running south because David is north, but also they can't stay here. As soon as they get the word, they take off and they go up to this place called Bachurim, which is still in Yerushalayim. Here's Hadassah Harat Sofim, the hospital, and so on and so forth. So where do they go? If you keep on this this highway here, you can go to Malei Adumim, from Bachurim to Malei Adumim. I said there was no town there yet at that time, as far as I know. And somewhere in this area, they find David. Why is he in this area? Where else is he going to hide? He knows about this area. That's where he used to hide when he was running away from Shaul, here, and especially farther south, which is where you get to the whole area, Ein Gedi, Masada, etc. And all of those further south, that's Kfish Tishim, Road 90, takes you down there today. But when you get there, right, you see all these different caves and there's different mountain ranges, etc. So this area. But what is David? How do I know David wasn't farther south and he must be in this area? Because he's told, cross the Jordan, get out of town, leave and go to the other area. So he crosses. This is the Ardain over here, the Jordan River. You can hardly see it even at this level of magnification because it's so tiny, right? That's supposed to be the border, etc. And after they cross over to the other side, where do they end up? Mysteriously and not so mysteriously. The symmetry is just beautiful. They go to this place called Machanayim. Now, everybody knows where Machanayim is. You've heard of Machanayim. I know you know where Machanayim is. It's in the Torah, right? So where is Machanayim located? We just saw it on the map. Where is it in Tanakh? Turn to the Sefer Breshit, chapter 32. Breshit, chapter 32, verse 3. And it's Machanayim. Page 37 in the Koren Tanakh. Can everyone hear me, by the way? Are we okay? We're good? Yes? Okay. Yeah. 37, verse 3. Chapter 32, verse 3, page 37, if you're using Koren Tanakh. This is Yaakov Avinu going back to face Esav, going back to the land of Israel. He doesn't know he's going to face Esav yet. Where does he go? By verse 2, V'Yaakov halach l'darko, he's parted from Lavan, he got away from him. Vayivki uvo malachei Elohim. Vayomer Yaakov ke'asher ra'am, machanei Elohim zeh, vayikra shel makom hahu Machanayim. David goes to the exact place where Yaakov Avinu was. Now, why did he go there? We'll see in a minute. But you understand, of course, the symmetry about how unbelievable it would be that complicated family relationships will have their reckoning, and in the end, in case of Yaakov and Esav, peaceably, right in that area, right in that spot, in fact. If that was the only parallel, you could say, well, he went to that place that had a good watering hole. And by the way, once we're here, I might as well just share with you. Everyone wants to know what's that river that was used by Yaakov to cross over. This is the river in question. It's called the Nachal Yabuk, the Yabuk Valley. If you're looking at the, this is a topographical map. So you see that it's 200 meters above sea level here. Then it's 100 and 100 and 100 over here. And here it's presumably lower. It's the valley. That's why this snaking path is the path of the water. This is the creek in question that is spoken about when we speak about the crossing over of that river. That's where it is. And as you see, there are larger bodies of water, and it itself is a tributary of the Jordan River in some way. They seem to be connected, but right, it's a valley. If you see it zoomed out, there's mountain ranges on either side, and there's a valley in between, and it's protected on either side, therefore, from anyone coming from north or from south. So comes David to this place. He's in Machanayim. Also, Machanayim is part of the area known as the Gilad. Gilad is the area known in the Torah as, also known as Aver HaYarden. It's over the Jordan. And that's an area where 2.5 tribes do live, right? Reuven, Gad, and a portion of Shevet Manasseh as well. They have homes, they have businesses, they have farms, they have armies, they have militia, etc. So here, Pasuk Chavtam, we'll have to come back to understand, because you're going to see now in a few minutes that it's not really literal when the Torah says, when the Navi says rather, all the Jews were with him. It sounds more like they were representatives from many different tribes. Now, was this a time lapse and it went much quicker? Rather, it took longer. Was there a time lapse? And we're just reading it pasuk to pasuk. That space between verse 23 and verse 24, a temporal space. So that happened. Achitopher killed himself. David went wherever he went, and eventually, later on, some point later, David arrived at Machanaim, and at that time, that's when he got to Machanaim. That's when Avshalom had already successfully mustered all of the troops and brought them over the Jordan. They had crossed the Rubicon. I mean, with the application here, not in the Roman sense of it, but right? Now David knows now they're coming. So that Amasa, he's living in exile. How long was he there? We don't really know. We assume it was not very long at all. But Amasa sam Avshalom tachat Yoav ala tzava, v'masa ven ish u'shmo Yitra Yisraeli, asher ba el Abigail bat Nachash achot Sruya em Yoav. This is a complicated family tree, but basically, who's the new chief of staff of Avshalom now that Yoav is not available because Yoav is with David, right? This is actually an individual who is related to Yoav. It's a military family. So people wanted to hang out together because they're from the same family. Yeah? And therefore they want to have they have the same characteristics in some regard. And with those characteristics, what happens? They go into military work. So here we are. He's going to be the new guy. But also we see how enmeshed everything is. It's family to family. Vayichani Sov Avshalom, Eretz HaGilad. Who's in the Gilad area? Both Avshalom and also David and his people are there as well. Yeah. So when we recognize this, we realize that there's going to be some kind of now conflict. As much as David was engaged in conflict avoidance, clearly there is now going to be some kind of a contest. You understand why? Everyone's now they're converging on it. So once the convergence is happening, it sounds like it's not going to be as easy for David to avoid it. And unfortunately, that's exactly how it's going to play out. Sad to say, right? In terms of how people will conduct themselves. We're coming to it now. So what transpires? Vayihi kivod David machanaim v'shovi ven Nachash mirabat bnei Ammon. Anybody remember who Nachash is? Ring a bell? Who Nachash is? Go back to chapter 10. Oh no, I made a mistake. Not 10. It was it was 10. Yeah. Look at chapter 10. It's on page 375 in the Koren Tanakh, or it's Shmuel Bet, chapter 10. Who died? The king of Ammon, and Hanun, his son, took over. So David says, I'm going to do chesed with Hanun ben Nachash, the king of Ammon. Everyone with me?
Are you?
Sorry? Go ahead, Shelley. I didn't hear you. Say it again.
Are you saying that that Nachash is the same? Is Amasa's grandfather? It sounds like in verse 25, Amasa was the son of a man named Yitra the Israelite, who consorted with Abigail, daughter of Nachash, the sister of Yoav.
So I glossed over it, but of course you caught me. We're going to have to try to figure that out further along. Is that Nachash, the king of Ammon? Is some other guy named Nachash? It's a very strange name, right?
It means snake, right?
Yeah. But it was a man. It was a man's name. Also,
Oh.
people took the name Nachash. Why would anyone do that?
Yeah.
I have no idea. But I assume it was that he wanted to be a tough guy. In the case of the king of Ammon, it seemed that way always to me. That's why he's called the Nachash. He called himself that. His parents wanted to give him a name that reflected a great power. Don't know. Why do people call their children Zev? Means wolf. Well, because it depends how you look at it. Maybe it's, quite biblically, we say, well, the Nachash has so much baggage. That's true, but
Right.
that's how it goes. The point here, and I did gloss over it. We have to come back to it. Who's the Nachash? Some other guy named Nachash, like a popular name. Everyone was naming their kids Alexander, so they named their kids Nachash because it was in the air. Or is it actually the same guy? It doesn't mention it's Nachash Melech Ammon, but it does leave us scratching our heads thinking, wait, they're intermarrying with the king over there? That's very strange. But look what happens here. Shovi ben Nachash from Rabat Bnei Ammon sounds really like it is actually an individual who is related to Nachash, yeah? He's from Amman. He's from Ramat Bnei Ammon. Could be another guy. Again, I'm just taking some level of shot for today to go back and see it more in depth further along. But if you look at chapter 10, that's Hanun ben Nachash. Remember that went very, very badly. David's trying to do chesed, and they saw it as a ruse of some sort, and therefore the casus belli of cutting off the beards and ripping their clothes and terrible things and sending them back with their tail between their legs. But here you do see that there is going to be some chesed over here. So these people show up. Shovi ben Nachman ben Ammon, Machir ben Amiyel mi lo davar, and Barzilai Giladim mi roglim. What do they do? What are they bringing? They're bringing lots of stuff, supplies. Mishka, v'sapot, uchli yotzer, v'chitim, usorim, v'kemach, v'kali, upul, v'adashim, v'kali. All sorts of things that they bring that are related to foodstuffs and creature comforts. Udavash, v'chem'ah, v'tzon, ushefot bakar, higishu l'David, v'la'am, asher ito le'echol, ki amru ha'am, ra'ev, v'ayef, v'tzameh b'midbar. These people did great chesed with David and David's people. And if you see all the different things that they bring them, you start asking yourself, wow, sounds like David, who is now impoverished, has to run away, doesn't have anything with him, now is getting all this material that he can have with him. And this material is, amazingly, a lot of different things. Some of them are luxury items, like honey and butter, other things, and couches, different things. Let me just read two more psukim and I'll take your question and comments, Shelley. One more second. It's part of the same paragraph. And here I'm rebelling against, I'm a rebel. I'm rebelling against this numbers, the business. Why is this chapter 18? Because some non-Jewish king in the Middle Ages, based on a religious leader, who shall not be named, from another faith, decided, hey, let's just put a chapter heading here. It's not a new chapter. The next verse. Vayifkod David et ha'am asher ito vayasem aleim sarei alafim v'sarei me'ot. Right in that pasuk. What did you learn? Clearly if there could be captains over the thousands and captains over the hundreds, there are not 10 people with him, but thousands of people with him. It says so right here. Vayishalach David et ha'am hashlishit biyad Yoav, vashlishit biyad Avishai ben Seruya, achi Yoav, Bashlishit biyad Itai Hagiti. Pause, but same pasuk, so I have to finish it. Vayomer Hamelech el Ha'am Yatzoi Tzei Gamani Imachem. I go to war with you, and you know what I just did? I did what my forefather Yaakov did. I'm splitting the camp into 3 brigades instead of 2 groups. I'm 3 groups. But the idea of splitting up and having captains, and here you see it right here. We're not all going to band together and be one big group. We'll be 3 groups. By the way, I'm coming along. And of course, as we know, almost everyone, they're just described as the nation, says to David, no way. We are not taking that risk. You're not the, whatever it is, the 16-year-old a champion who goes out with your slingshot against Goliath. You're older and you mean more to the nation than anything else. And if you die in battle, it's over. Avshalom really will take over. We can't abide that. So we're not going to let you do that. That's going to be the discussion, right? They're saying no, right? Because something happens to us, we have to run away. If something happens, right, etc. Okay, over to you, Shelley. Questions, comments, and anyone else who wants to.
We got.
Please.
Both sides have Nachash as a ancestor.
Shelley,
Amasa does. And
Shelley, forgive the interruption.
Sure.
We hear you very well. Could you speak with a little softer voice,
Oh,
please?
sure.
Thanks so much.
Or lower your volume at home is another way of doing it. I hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. Amasa is a descendant of Nachash, but so are these people who are bringing some of the people bringing Shobi, son of Nachash, from Rabbah. That's got to mean something. What does it mean?
If it's the same person, yes. If it's not, then there's still meant to be some kind of, call it, symmetry between these two. Meaning, look at how split, how riven everything is. That you could have, there's someone named Nachash on this side, someone named Nachash on that side. There's a father against the son, a son against the father, someone the father against the son. It's really the opposite. But absolutely, we'll have to see it though. If it's the same person, it's very strange it should be the same person. Does it mean they were married into the royal family of the Ammonites? Question mark. I'm leaving that open-ended for now. I'm sticking on the level of Pshat to show you this inside. And also to show you from this map, who are the people who came to be with him? So we had this this fellow who came from Lodavar. That's here with the names. Yeah. We had Shovi from Rabat Bnei Ammon. It's not mentioned here. It should have been down here, but Rabat Bnei Ammon is around down here. Lodavar is up here. And the third one, I don't know if we know exactly where Roglim is. I don't remember now. I thought I had seen it previously, but I don't know. We don't know exactly where Roglim is. So this is done by the good people at the Machon Herzog, Michalel Herzog. They're not making things up if they don't have a clue. But the point is, it's in that vicinity. They're coming to Machanayim. Obviously, there's Rabat Bnei Ammon. It was further south than I thought. Sorry, I thought it was more here. It's down here. So they're on David's side, and they're up here in Machanayim, and they're already realizing there's going to be a conflict, a military conflict. Wait, Larry, are you trying to say something? You're muted. No. Okay, sorry. So okay, fine. So just to realize the different people, players, locations, and configurations here. But clearly, David has not rolled up into a ball and said, "Ribono shel olam, it's over. I'm not going to fight him." He is now dividing the people into groups, and he's saying, actually using the words, "I will go with you." Does he want to make peace still? Find a way to make peace with his son? Not clear. It'll be a little more clear as we keep reading. Pasuk Gimel. Vayomer ha'am lo teitzei ki im nos nanus lo yasimu eleinu leiv. They're not going to care if we run away. They're not coming for us. V'im yamutu chetzienu lo yasimu eleinu leiv. Ki ata chamonu asara alafim ve'ata tov ki tiyeh lanu me'ir la'azor. So basically, you should realize that they don't care about us, splitting us up. They're not coming for us. They're really coming for you. You should just go to the city, and from the city, you will help. Now, there's a bit of a discussion, though. This part I will tell you right now. If that city is any old city, or if that city is, remember they're at Machanayim, if that city is this city, down here. What's the logic? The troops are on their way north. Double back, circle around them, go down here and hide. They won't come to find you there. They're interested now in looking for you north. We'll create a diversion by being in 3 different groups. You need to get away. Others say, no, you just go to the city, means wherever it is. It's not relevant, so it doesn't tell you. Pasuk Daled, the king says to them, what's David saying? I listen to what you say. I'm listening to my counselors. He stands at the side of the gate. We didn't know until now that anything was happening in Machanayim other than it being a famous place, but it turns out there was some kind of town right there. And he watches them go by. Vayitzav HaMelech et Yoav, that if we shavit itai lemor, you are in charge. Le'at li lanar Avshalom. What does that mean? Don't kill him. Kid gloves, it is actually my son. You will not kill him. Everyone heard that David gave the charge, not be well and be of good courage, but don't harm my boy. Now this will be relevant, of course, for what's coming next. The nation goes out to be against Israel. Who's who in the nation and Israel? Milchama b'yar Ephraim, and the war is in the forest of Ephraim. Now, where's the forest of Ephraim? It's very strange because I thought the whole battle was taking place on the east bank of the Jordan, and Yar Ephraim is on the west bank of the Jordan. So it's very strange. Vayinagfu sham am Yisrael lifnei avnei David. Vatihi sham hamagefa gedola bayamahu esrim aleph. 20,000 people are casualties of this war. And if you look carefully, it actually describes verse 6 and verse 7. It describes things in a somewhat ambiguous way. Verse 6, it's the nation going out against Israel. But David is not Israel. David is the Am. And the second time, it's Am Yisrael. And what's with Am Yisrael? They're stricken down by the servants of David. Right? So you just consider that when people speak, let's say they want to give a description of a terrible disaster in American history, they'll reach for the Civil War, the Battle of Antietam. How many people died there? Union casualties, 12,410. Confederacy, 10,316.
Like this.
Dead, 2,108 on one side, 1,567 on the other. And here, what is described? 20,000 people. So you think what an unbelievable a convulsion this was for all of Klal Yisrael. 20,000 people were stricken in this. Now, by the way, if you look at the language carefully, and I want you to see the next pasuk, you see that even the way the Navi frames what has happened here, which is incredibly tragic, is to shift it away from the Civil War aspect and shift it towards the idea. It's already on display in verse 7. More of this is a natural disaster. You see it in verse 7, but in verse 7, I elided it when I said it. I made it sound like it really was something terrible that happened that involved the war. But look at verse 8. Vatihi shama milchama nafotzet al pnei chol haaretz. Where did the war happen? All over the country. Vayerev haya'ar le'echol ba'am me'asher achla cherv bayom ahu. You know what actually killed more people? The forest killed them. More even than the sword. I'm just going to take this on the level of pshat for right now. We'll see that there are other layers further along, but not for today. But just on the level of pshat, let me throw it out there. You know better than me, probably. What is going on here? Why, when we're talking about a war, it's suddenly mentioned that the war was happening in Yar Ephraim. Sorry, I'm too far north. Yar Ephraim, Yerushalayim. I'm sorry, way too far north. Let's keep going. Yerushalayim is over here. The war is somehow in the forest of Ephraim here, sort of as against Machanayim. But then we learn it is all over the whole land. And the Navi wants us to know that somehow mysteriously the forest devoured more people than the sword. Before we get to any other layers, what could that possibly mean? That it was the forest's fault. Please go ahead. Want to venture guesses?
I'm assuming that we're to think it's Hashem's hand, as opposed to the humans killing each other, some kind of divine intervention.
Right. So we could absolutely see there that and if you look at verse 7, by the way, right, that it does use the language of a magefa. A magefa we know what a magefa is, unfortunately, very, very well. It's a plague. A plague broke out, and all these people died. You understand? We understand why plagues break out more in wartime than in other places. People are living on top of each other. There's typhoid, there's dysentery, there's terrible things that happen. There are plagues. We have the record from the 19th century. In the 19th century, the Prussian War with Poland, etc., that involved so many thousands of troops, lasted years, was what brought about a terrible cholera epidemic that Rabbi Akiva Eger is writing about in his time. He's writing about the terrible plague of his day. He of course, Rabbi Akiva Eger, that is, telling the people how to deal with their challenges, right? So he dies in the 1830s, but in his lifetime, he's battling out this terrible result of the war. The people took from the battlefield. The soldiers were coming off the battlefield, bringing cholera into the cities. And he's advising the various non-Jewish leaders about what to do, which was wild. But they gave him these great honors, these great prizes, rewards for his service. So it goes. And in verse 8, I just mentioned this based on Rashi, who quotes the Targum Yonatan. It means that there were many wild animals in the forests. And that's what it means the forest devoured these people because they went out heedlessly to a place that was untamed, and they were taken away by the natural environment. So let me say it in a different way. There was no civil war. There was, unfortunately, some stress, some mild conflict between the people under Avshalom's banner and some people under the banner of David. It's true, there were a few casualties, but the truth is, you know how united Klal Yisrael needs to be now? There was a Magefa. There was a terrible result from Hashem. The Magefa is from Hashem, and the animals eating people is from Hashem. But it's not about conflict between the brethren. Isn't that a good way to tell the story? Better than to say, actually, 20,000 people, some of whom died in a plague, some of whom were eaten up by animals, but many of whom actually slew each other on a battlefield. You hear the distinction? Now, what actually happened in the numbers? So the Navi tells you that more people died as a result of the being eaten by animals and the plague than by the sword. But it's good that it's told that way, because the alternative is there was a massive civil war.
But
Larry.
What I'm having difficulty understanding is the reason the people were there were for the purpose of conducting a civil war.
Right.
And
they intended to, but they didn't really have a civil war.
Didn't fall.
Wait, you broke
each other's hands for the Magefa. Had they not died through the intervention of the Magefa, there would have been enormous numbers of casualties in battle between the two sides.
Right, but I'm
so
suggesting.
I understand, but it just, to say what was the cause of their death, it was a Magefa, yes, but if there had not been what was a civil war, clearly a civil war, had they stayed home, there wouldn't have been the Mageifa.
Right.
At least not, it would not have occurred in that place.
Right.
So that interpretation, in all due respect and admiration, is a whitewash.
What's a whitewash? To say that it was?
To say that it was not related to a civil war. Yes, the proximate cause of their death was the Mageifa.
Right.
But there was a horrible civil war, which had it not occurred, I'm repeating myself, the Mageifa would not have.
Okay, now I understand you. And let me say, that was the word that I didn't want to say out loud, but since you said it already, it's a whitewash. Or to say it in theological terms, I got my weaponry and my armor on to go out and kill my brother. But you know what happened? I got a terrible, terrible patch from Avinu Shebashamayim. Not from my brother. It's not his fault. In my civil war where one brother said, I will go kill my brother. But God said, I punish all of you for going out to battle. How dare you have a civil war? And suddenly, temporarily, momentarily, there is actually a feeling of we're all in this together. Because if you see what happens here, it's that, by the way, more people died, more people were killed from natural causes than from the reality of the conflict itself. But you're right. There wouldn't have been that death had they not gone out to war. You're right.
But what I don't understand is when you say we're all in this together. Lahavdil elef havdal elef pa'amim. To say that people are dying in Iran from COVID-19 and they're also dying in Eretz Yisrael doesn't mean we're in it together. It means we are subject to the same Mageifa, but where there is no way a unity between the two sides, between the side of David and the side of Avshalom.
Okay, so I don't want to get into geopolitics of today.
You're
making a good point, but the point here is I'm not sure I agree with you, by the way. I think it would have been great in my Pollyanna way of seeing the world if Iran would have said, gee, we're human and they're human. We have the same disease that they have. But of course, what happened instead? They spun it that somehow this is a Zionist plot. This is brother and brother meet each other on the battlefield, but instead of killing each other, they're both dying of the same thing. And you're going to see afterward, that's, I think, what ends up helping things to coalesce and not to be a bloodbath of, we won, now let's go kill all the people who were rebels. And I'm just saying part of that, when you look at a staggering number of 20,000 people dead in a Mageifa, and owing to animals eating them in the, wild animals eating them in the forest, the feeling of, my goodness, this is terrible. Who do I point the finger at? The answer is, right? Hashem sent this because this was wrong. That's sort of theological. And the fact that it didn't exist before, but it happened as a result of them being out in the forest, etc., I think actually ends up quelling the sense that that it was one person, mamash, killing another person. Not that there wasn't that happening too, I'm sure, but not to the same extent. We're going to have to stop here, unfortunately. Some pressing issues to got to take care of involving the shul. People are calling me, so I gotta end now. So our abridged here was an hour anyway, but God willing, next week we'll delve a little bit deeper. And of course, I stopped right at a pretty dramatic moment because that's going to open up a whole bevy of issues and discussions about what transpired, who was there, who knew, what did they know, when did they know it, who did they tell, and what did they do that was exceeding their authority that was granted them by David HaMelech. All of that and more for next time.
Thank you very much.
I wish everyone a great day, and see you soon. Take care.